In 2018, the United States, under the Trump administration, imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. This move was part of a broader strategy to protect American industries and reduce the trade deficit. The tariffs, 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum, sent shockwaves through the global trading system. Countries around the world scrambled to respond to this unexpected policy shift. The Trump administration justified the tariffs on the grounds of national security. They claimed that relying on foreign steel and aluminum could compromise the nation's defense capabilities in times of crisis. They argued that a strong domestic steel and aluminum industry was vital for the country's defense. By imposing these tariffs, the administration hoped to revitalize these critical sectors. The tariffs were met with immediate condemnation from many of the United States' closest allies, including Germany and Canada. These countries saw the tariffs as a direct threat to their own industries and economies. These countries argued that the tariffs were protectionist and violated World Trade Organization rules. They believed that such measures undermined the principles of free and fair trade. They also pointed out that the United States was a net importer of steel and aluminum, and that the tariffs would harm American businesses and consumers. The increased costs would likely be passed down to consumers, leading to higher prices for everyday goods. The tariffs had a significant impact on the global steel and aluminum industries. Countries that relied heavily on exporting these metals to the US faced economic challenges and had to seek new markets. The price of steel and aluminum rose sharply, as did the cost of goods that used these metals as inputs. This included everything from cars to construction materials, affecting a wide range of industries. The tariffs also led to job losses in the steel and aluminum industries in countries that exported to the United States. Factories closed and workers found themselves unemployed, highlighting the far-reaching consequences of the policy. Germany, a manufacturing powerhouse, was particularly hard hit by the tariffs. The country is a major exporter of steel and aluminum to the United States, and these industries employ hundreds of thousands of people. The tariffs threatened to disrupt supply chains, raise costs, and lead to job losses in Germany. The German automotive industry, which relies heavily on imported steel and aluminum, was particularly vulnerable to the tariffs. The tariffs threatened to increase the cost of production for German automakers, making their cars less competitive in the US market. This raised concerns about potential job losses in the German automotive sector, a key driver of the country's economy. The tariffs also had a broader impact on the German economy. The uncertainty created by the tariffs led to a decline in business investment and consumer confidence. This, in turn, slowed economic growth in Germany. Canada, another major exporter of steel and aluminum to the United States, was also significantly affected by the tariffs. Canada and the United States have long had a close trading relationship, and the tariffs put a strain on this relationship. The tariffs had a particularly severe impact on the Canadian steel and aluminum industries. These industries are concentrated in certain provinces, such as Ontario and Quebec, and the tariffs led to job losses and economic hardship in these regions. The tariffs also had a broader impact on the Canadian economy. The uncertainty created by the tariffs led to a decline in business investment and consumer confidence. This, in turn, slowed economic growth in Canada. The tariffs presented Germany and Canada with a difficult dilemma, whether to retaliate with tariffs of their own or to seek a negotiated solution. This decision was not just about economics, but also about national pride and political strategy. Retaliatory tariffs would likely escalate the trade dispute and could lead to a full-blown trade war. Such a scenario would disrupt global supply chains and affect international trade relations. However, not retaliating would be seen as a sign of weakness and could encourage the United States to impose further tariffs. This could potentially undermine the economic sovereignty of Germany and Canada. Germany and Canada initially responded to the tariffs by threatening retaliatory tariffs on a range of US goods. This was a strategic move to show that they would not back down easily. Germany threatened tariffs on iconic American products like Harley-Davidson motorcycles and Kentucky bourbon. These products were chosen for their symbolic value and economic impact. Canada targeted products from states represented by key figures in the Trump administration, aiming to exert political pressure. This tactic was designed to hit where it would hurt politically. However, both countries were also aware of the potential costs of a trade war. They knew that escalating the conflict could have severe repercussions. A trade war would harm businesses and consumers on both sides of the Atlantic and could damage the global economy. The stakes were high, and the decisions made would have long-lasting impacts. Section 5. A house divided, Germany and the EU. The tariffs also highlighted the challenges of maintaining a united front within the European Union. The EU, a complex political and economic union, often faces internal disagreements that can complicate its external policies. Germany, as the largest economy in the EU, initially favored a more confrontational approach towards the United States. This stance was driven by its significant economic power and influence within the Union. However, other EU members, particularly those with closer economic ties to the US, were more cautious. They feared that a hardline approach could jeopardize their own economic interests and lead to further complications. This difference in approach led to tensions within the EU, with some members accusing Germany of being too quick to resort to protectionism. These internal conflicts often make it difficult for the EU to present a unified stance. The EU ultimately decided to impose retaliatory tariffs on a range of US goods, a move that was seen as necessary to protect its own economic interests. But the process of reaching this decision was lengthy and divisive. It required extensive negotiations and compromises among the member states. The tariffs exposed the inherent tension between national interests and the EU's goal of speaking with one voice on trade matters. This is a recurring challenge for the Union. While individual member states are affected differently by trade disputes, their varied economic landscapes often lead to differing priorities and strategies. The EU's strength lies in its ability to negotiate as a bloc. Despite the internal challenges, this collective approach allows the EU to wield significant influence on the global stage. Section 6. Canada and Germany finding common ground. Faced with a common threat, Canada and Germany began exploring the possibility of coordinating their response to the US tariffs. They recognized that a joint response, targeting a broader range of US goods, would carry more weight and could potentially force the US to reconsider its tariffs. The two countries shared a similar approach to trade, valuing multilateralism and rules-based trade. They also had strong economic ties, with Germany being a major investor in Canada and Canadian companies having a significant presence in Germany. This potential alliance signaled a shift in the global trade landscape. With traditional alliances strained by protectionist policies, like-minded countries were seeking new partnerships to defend their interests and uphold the principles of free trade. Section 7. The Transatlantic Partnership tested. The US tariffs on steel and aluminum had a profound impact on transatlantic relations. The tariffs were seen by many in Europe and Canada as a betrayal of the close partnership that had existed between the US and its allies for decades. The tariffs raised questions about the future of the transatlantic partnership and the US's commitment to the rules-based international order. The US's willingness to impose tariffs on its closest allies based on questionable national security grounds eroded trust and undermined the spirit of cooperation that had long characterized transatlantic relations. The tariffs also highlighted the growing divergence between the US and its allies on trade policy. While the US under the Trump administration pursued a more unilateral and protectionist approach, the EU and Canada remained committed to multilateralism and free trade. Section 8. The looming shadow of 2025. As the 2025 US presidential election approached, the issue of tariffs and trade relations with Europe and Canada remained a point of contention. It was unclear whether a new administration would reverse the tariffs or continue the Trump administration's protectionist policies. The outcome of the 2025 election had the potential to reshape transatlantic trade relations. A victory for a candidate who campaigned on a platform of free trade and multilateralism could pave the way for a reset in relations and the removal of tariffs. However, a victory for a candidate who continued the Trump administration's protectionist policies could further strain transatlantic relations and lead to a deepening of the trade dispute. The uncertainty surrounding the 2025 election added another layer of complexity to the already tense trade relations between the US and its allies. Section 9. A New World Order. The US tariffs on steel and aluminum and the subsequent trade tensions were symptomatic of a broader shift in the global order. The rise of populism and protectionism, coupled with the US's retreat from its traditional leadership role in the global economy, created a more uncertain and unpredictable trading environment. The tariffs highlighted the need for countries like Germany and Canada to diversify their trading partners and reduce their reliance on the US market. They also underscored the importance of strengthening multilateral institutions such as the WTO to ensure a rules-based trading system. The tariffs marked a turning point in international trade, signaling a move away from the era of globalization and towards a more fragmented and uncertain future.